Chilly here with siriustalesmoon, Jupiter hour here, Mercury day. The moon is conjoining Ketu and ruled by Mercury, 8 degrees Capricorn, co-present with a triple conjunction Sun, Venus, Mars, 17 degrees Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, that's now next to the midheaven in Pisces, and Saturn is ruled by Jupiter that opposes the triple conjunction. Ascendant is 6 degrees Cancer, ruled by this moon. Great time to talk about rejuvenating what is set in stone. So, first of all, let's take a look at the news because we could be purging some small structures. And I'm going to talk about the Saturn and Neptune. I'm going to talk about Uranus in this episode, going from Taurus, the land, reforestation, rewilding, half moons to rewater the land, and into the upside down pyramid, and into Gemini, which basically means the technology or the beginning of building with soil into the soil, and all of that sextile in Saturn that goes from Jupiter sign, where we revolutionize structures of belief, of traditional beliefs. We saw the burning down of the pyramidal churches that were a symbol, at least to those that burned them and to those that observed that, they were a symbol of the detached divinity. The church that Leonardo da Vinci and Galileo Galilei were not turning against by purpose, but more asserting the fact that actually applying, actually observing, which was not detached from channeling, but the actual praxis of science, of basically the common person, was important enough to not just accept the indoctrinated channeling or channeling of the divine signs of the church. Those structures that are the remainder of the church that has the divine at the top of the pyramid and the human as indoctrinated by the divine, whether it's clergy, whether it's the monarch that supposedly represent the god or the divine, these structures were beginning to burn. There was violence, and basically that turned against indoctrination, not against divinity, but against indoctrination. A lot of discussion about the god of the pyramidal structure not being the true God or the authentic God, alongside discussions about Gnosis, Mary Magdalene, the yin science. I've been talking in 2017 about the yin science and the connection to the world wars. This kind of punishes the land, loses the mandate of the heaven, be it the monarch or the people or the leader or the people. People are leaders, leaders of people. Something that I really received strongly when I was working on charts of populist leaders, populist right-wing leaders, and the notion of sovereignty, decentralization, and many other things that I'm still processing with the current charts that surround me, let's say, in this day and age. So a little bit of checking up with the news. Okay, we're still talking about Venezuela. A lot of discussion. Perhaps there's going to be more military. Chinese reactors enter a commercial operation. Hybrid AI with personalized perceptive proactive AI. I think I got to experience the telepathic experiments with AI, which basically means that I would watch, let's say, a video, and I would receive kind of a computer interface telepathy as though that person was interacting. It's a very interactive experience. Very fascinating experience, very interactive. Um, the risk is, of course, that when it comes into contact with, let's say, minors, or people are not acquainted with asserting their sovereignty in the face of or relational sovereignty, that can create the same problems. It adds a layer. There's a more hidden layer to the problems internet poses to minors in general. But it offers an opportunity to participate in discussion, and that is that is actually holding a lot of opportunities. Amsterdam airport canceled at least 700 flights. Again, my aviation crisis. And again, we're talking about commercial flights, as I predicted. I'm very, very happy to see that this is because of snow and wind, engineered or not engineered, no casualties. And we see the role of Saturn here, holding the restriction over aviation. And with Jupiter in Pisces is commercial aviation. And we see a lot of prevention of disasters that could definitely be quite big on the scale. And I hope nothing terrible happens, but we also need to remember that I hope nothing happens. But even if, we need to remember that both in Greece, in Amsterdam, we see that the rules that do save life are enacted, and that's wonderful to see. I was very, very, how should I say, worried about this kind of combination. But I see that so far, the way Saturn plays a role here is, again, being the responsible adult. Flights are actually halted. And we talk about commercial flights, when we talk about shutting an airport down for several hours, of course, this is billions. It's billions. It's people that are stuck without flight, that need to sleep at the airport. A lot of risks that poses, a lot of compensations, a lot of extra hours for pilots, co-pilots, all the team, the team on board, the team in the airport, a shit ton of logistics. And of course, into each crisis, people are going to have to do a think tank team. But nobody likes an airport being halted for several hours, and people are tempted to see it as a little bit of snow and wind, and they have to stop the entire airport. They wouldn't be thinking that if planes would be crashing. So we see that this is this is in many ways something that prevents a lot of other disasters, and that's the Capricorn playing the role of the grown adult. World Cup, Brazil. U.S. foes and allies denounce Trump's crime of aggression. I have extensively addressed the topic of drugs, oil trafficking regime in other episodes, so I'll just skip that. Russia reportedly sent submarine to escort shadow tanker being pursued 7 minutes ago. Okay, U.S. seizes Russian flagged oil tanker in Atlantic after 2 weeks pursuit. like water and oil. So the U.S. is USing. Trump is Trumping, but we can't say Trump is Trumping without the U.S. is USing. Like I said, even with the Ukraine frontier kind of being watered down by the almost traditional role of France, then the frontiers are not just Ukraine, and the Arctic frontier is a very strong frontier. It's an oil frontier, it's a minerals frontier, and it's a geopolitical. It's northeast to the United States, it's not northeast to Russia, and yet it's understandable why Russia doesn't like the idea of United States being all that close with some forces in Ukraine. And while it's understandable, it's also understandable why it's important for the United States and how Europe could be feeling caught up in the middle, caught in the middle with nukes. Um, this is why Germany and France had a fight over rejuvenating energies, and France was just not pretending to be green energy. I'm not going to talk about Netherlands. I'm not going to talk about Netherlands. Yeah, it's so it's complicated. More UN staff detention in Yemen, peacekeepers killed in Sudan, and peacekeepers killed in Sudan is something that happened 3 weeks ago. But now, as we talk about peacekeeping forces in Ukraine, we can see how that can go. I'm not saying that that's how it's going to be, but we can see how that can go, and that's a point to think about. Again, Venezuela. Iranian security forces clash with protesters in Tehran Grand Bazaar. So again, protests in Tehran. Not something too new. It's been happening for a while. With the Gen Zers, it's kind of like an Arab Spring, but now it got to Iran, and the question being, is Iran like Syria? Okay, and when I talk about Iran being like Syria, I'm talking about, is a minority ruling over a majority in Iran, religiously and culturally? And we had that in Iraq, we had that in Syria. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm not an expert on Iran. Actually, the person I knew that was an expert on Iran went Marcel Marceau. There are a lot of people who are mythicizing the Shah, and I remind everyone that before 1979, the Shah was already too religious. That's how he got replaced. Okay? That's, and this is, but of course, as the world is changing, people want more sovereignty. I know the Gen Zers are considered so religious and so on and so forth. They're not Ayatollah religious. They want religion to religion. They want religion to actually be sacred. Okay? And it is a Pluto. They're going to talk about the taboos in religion. The taboo of Sagittarius. Okay, it's the Pluto Sag, folks. The taboo of Sagittarius is ritual abuse. So that's something, and the connection between oil and religion, which is how the Gen Z revolutions are being funded. They outthrow regimes, but they don't outthrow oil companies. I said again, Greenpeace can challenge Standard Oil, but not the chemtrails. There's a lot going on in terms of power. Could Trump go for Greenland or Cuba next? Why not both? As far as the persona. So much so. Let's see if we have more Gen Z. Did they throw another regime down? At Bulgaria, lastly, Atlantic Council asks what do all the 7 countries have in common, but then they went to Bulgaria, so that's awakening of Jay-Z across Asia, global Gen Z. Okay, yes, Nepal, but no updates. No updates so far. I don't know. That's the visible. I severely doubt. Is the Gen Z revolution behind what's happening in Iran, for example? I don't know. Have we stopped receiving information about it? This can also be a possibility. And sometimes the news is the missing. What is missing is the news. Let's see what NATO is up to. Coalition of the Willing. So we still have the ongoing meeting. Yesterday we had the draft for peace agreements. If Trump takes Greenland, how would NATO respond? And again, Trump loves provoking the structure and see how would people react structurally to his moves. He knows how to be interesting. I have to admit that. Okay, he knows how to be interesting. He's very much into the Dead Sea region. Recording. He's very much into the Dead Sea region. I remember I was traveling towards the Dead Sea. I was still living on the property, and I saw Trump like a rising sun. I think it was before the tariffs. He's very much into that region in terms of real estate. I cannot blame him. It's also a very beautiful region. So my joke about where do I put my things, Mar-a-Lago, might be there may be another branch of Mar-a-Lago. Yes. So I don't know. In which case, there's a feet massager. I think he would need that. He had a blood flow issue, so that could be good. More to say. How US to take over Greenland would undermine NATO from within. Well, I think this conversation has been having at least a year now. Like, uh, I talk about astrological declarations of independence, astrological consideration for declarations of independence. Yeah. Dad jokes. Oh my God. Gemini 10th house. I have Gemini 4th house. Both of them can show up. Anyway, Danish Prime Minister says that US takeover that we read that's 4 minutes ago. Hope Danish Prime Minister is not drug dealing. Furge wants Trump invading Greenland would be the end of NATO. As an astrologer, do I see the end of NATO? I do see Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 8th house of NATO, which means things NATO swiped under the rug. Greenland. Greenland. um, and Uranus Sedna. Sedna is in the 10th house for NATO. Uranus is going to go over that Sedna for good. There's going to be polarity. Ethical mining, mining resources, um, polarization around the leadership of NATO. We already saw that with some scandals. So I guess more of the like is predicted, particularly when we talk about the technologies that they build around the Arctic. I don't know what technologies, but Uranus going from Taurus to Gemini is exactly when we talk about the pyramid upside down. There are pyramids. There's this story in Pennsylvania where they discovered a pyramid building into the soil. They said it also under the pyramid of Giza. There are pyramids built upside down into the soil. I remember when I did channel experiments with Richard Feynman, I got the pyramid is upside down. It was communicate with his pyramid upside down writing. And of course, it has to do with yin. Okay, pyramid. The usual pyramid is yang. It's also masculine, and it basically denote the genitals. Okay, that thing standing up and that thing going down. And the Pennsylvania story went that the children later began to dig pyramids into the soil and fill them up with pebbles, and they slept better. Now I have to try this. And then I was thinking how smoothly Uranus transitions from, let's say, digging half moons to do rewilding. By the way, I harvested some of the natural growing weeds or crops from my half moons. Okay, the things were naturally growing. It's so lovely to see dry land, and then where I dug the half moons, something growing. It was wonderful because they broke something to course the building, and my D and half moons were basically creating a structure that holds the water. So it's um, basically creating, reversing those courses or creating something that grows in those places. We had calendula, we had mellow, um, some the small form of amaranth. I think it's called Good King Henry. I'm not sure. Um, and it was really, really, really exciting. And so from that, how the main pillars of the infrastructure of building, let's say, a city, already begin with Uranus at the end of Taurus, unveiling the sacred technology, the sacred geometry that can later establish sacred frequencies and nervous system supportive housing, which was one of my manifestations. I'm beginning to align with that, and that is very exciting for me. So when it comes to technology in the Arctic, I predict that there's going to be some polarization around the sacred geometry and the frequencies. How much of that would be exposed, revealed, discussed, I don't know. Okay, so a lot of Greenland discussions. Let's see where Neptune's at. NATO, Greenland. Um, and so definitely it's an 8 it's a resource, it's a hidden resource, a thing that's swiped under the rug. Do I see NATO dissolving because of that? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Is the structure going to change? Very likely. Do I see it like as the end of NATO? No. I know we don't have another century of Gladio, and yet it is just the decentralization and change of structure that can absolutely preserve NATO or renew it into a more relevant, up-to-date, current B6 style structure, keeping in mind that we're not going to have another century of Pluto sextile Neptune. I will have to meditate on what would a military alliance look like. It's very much, Neptune is going into my second house of skill, co-present with Mercury, Aries, now Chiron, but Chiron is going to move to Taurus, and it's ruled by Mars in the ninth house, ruling over Pluto, ruling over Saturn, it rules over Jupiter and Uranus. So definitely I have all the components to meditate on the topic and begin to conceptualize myself. What would a military alliance look like at the edge of air? More things about this. Now, colonialism o'clock. Neptune ingress. Let's talk about the Neptune ingress because we are just so near to the Neptune ingress. And it's happening January 26th. Okay, we are in January 7 now, just 20 days before the Neptune ingress. That move on Greenland. Okay, it's going to be sextile instead now. I don't like the idea of military invasion to Greenland. I do understand the necessity to tend to, let's say, a Russian oil. Okay, Russian oil. How is that communicated to Greenlanders? That is a question, and I think this can be one of the strengths of NATO to respond, because if Russia is doing something with oil there that's unprovoked or uncalled for, it's a NATO thing more than a US thing. And how is the message coming across to Greenland? How is the cooperation with Greenland? While at any second Israel could acknowledge Greenland's independence over, okay, or United States. For example, if Israel would acknowledge Greenland independence, way easier move than to militarily invade Greenland, but also Denmark. And so that kind of a move, although it's something that Trump is so prone to, which is to provoke the structure, and that kind of a move can put not only NATO, but Denmark and Greenland in a very weird position, and it can be strategically advantage for Putin, because Putin would claim that he has the right to respond and supposedly denazify Greenland. Now, geopolitically, do I like the fact that a country northeast to a lot of parts of Europe and United States is going to be way more populated with a country that is, I'm not saying in enmity, because it's not like Russia and US are enemies, but it's definitely geopolitically conflicted. Does Putin want to control the oceans? Of course. He's a very ocean-oriented person. The astrocartography lines definitely speak loud that this is a person who is at one with the ocean, and we should not underestimate the psychic awareness. Um, so I think that this is a provocation by Trump that could put him to more risk than he should be. I definitely see that he's meant to materialize something in Greenland, but I think that it put him, that this type of movement, moving military invasion to Greenland, would put him in more risk than he should be. I'm not saying over nothing. Of course, United States has an interest that Russia will not just, loot the oil with no response. But I think that this is a little bit of a 22 catch for Donald Trump. I don't like seeing that thing happen. And I think that the fact that he did a certain power move that again was meant to bring Europe to be more sovereign in the face of the United States, but now he needs NATO. He needs the response to be NATO alliance and not the US. And if he goes to the other type of polarity, this does prompt a situation where somebody just have to respond that wouldn't otherwise have. Even if it's Denmark. Now, does he intend to play something into the sovereignty of Greenland? Well, to be very honest, I think downright acknowledging sovereignty of Greenland would have been less risky than invading Greenland when you acknowledge it as a part of Denmark. Again, very likely Trump has his own ideas. It's a Rahu thing astrocartographically. Is Rahu 22 Gemini, and it is in Greenland. He's meant to materialize something there. I do fear that this could provoke something that, as a person tend to political assassination prevention, I don't like seeing. Again, this is where the astrology is louder than loud, and some things, in some places we're simply observers, and I respect those greater things as well. Like, he's meant to materialize something in Greenland, and he goes for it, and it's a 22 thing, and I don't know how it will end for Trump. And yet, I do see that there's something there fated, and I can only observe things from the outside, and only he knows from the inside what's going on within that causes this to be in that particular way. We had Chiron going direct on the 22, January 1st. Full moon in Cancer, which we talked about. And January 26th, Neptune is going direct, is ingressing into Aries. It is it going to be a military invasion to Greenland? ingress into Aries. Do we have a Greenland chart? Let's see if we have a Greenland chart. I know that natal chart would mean Declaration of Independence. I know they have a flag. We only have Denmark here. I will look at it from the Denmark perspective. Talk about the 1800 chart, 1849. Denmark perspective. Aries is the third house, so it's basically a neighboring country. Pluto, Uranus. Chiron is going over Uranus, Pluto. Aries is going over Uranus, Pluto. Conjunction. And this is going to be Saturn return for Denmark. Yes, I fear the Saturn ingress into Aries is Saturn return for Denmark. I fear that there's going to be. It's ruling the ascendant. Uranus is still going to be in Taurus, which is the fourth house of Denmark, and it's the sign of revolution. And next to Uranus, in Aries, we have Pluto, which means oil. Mars at its home sign. Saturn return. Let's think about Denmark we think 28 years back. So think to the Denmark 1998, 1996. Not Diné right now. Let's skip the frontiers. Folk, can we get Diné people on board doing their own thing? Because I'm an astrologer. I'm not Diné. maybe there's something in the bloodline, but I'm gonna need Diné people to have the Diné input on Diné regions, is what I'm saying. Whoa. Let's see, Denmark. I probably misspelled it because of all the Diné. I know that the indigenous people of United States, they resisted some deal with ICE that could have brought them land, but on the account of a lot of atrocities. And this is very honored. This is very respectful. Big shout out to Park Rose Permaculture for broadcasting on the region of Oregon, United States. I think it's where a lot of the Diné tribe were, according to the maps presented by indigenous Americans. So we have what happened in Denmark in those years, which would be events. Art, sports, births, deaths. Okay? Nothing I see more than that in world politics. But this is going to be a Saturn return for Denmark. And with all these discussions, and it's in the third house, so it can absolutely be a full-blown military invasion into Greenland. It's Trump. Okay. He's shown he does such things. So Uranus is going to be in their fourth house. So revolution around the land. Would it be a joining with the Greenland revolution? I don't know. Pluto is going to be conjoining Mars upon the ingress in Aquarius. There's going to be a new cycle of Mars, so the closing cycle of Mars. And we have been talking about Greenland for quite some time, so I think that this is going to be probably something of that sort. Then we have the February 14 Saturn-Neptune conjunction, world degree. Is it a frontier that starts in Greenland in 2? Not impossible. When it comes to Iran, so let's take a look. For Israel, it's 7th house, so with all that entails. When it comes to Iran, 7th house, enemies, allies, war at the frontier. Again, Dead Sea region. And let's see the April Fool Day country. Fifth house, so right now we have Neptune at the end of the 4th house. Again, Iran being invaded. Uranus in the 6th house, again coming from Israel, but also, Uranus transiting the 6th house. This is Uranus, Uranus opposition, end of the Uranus opposition for Iran. We saw the revolution of women, a lot of uprising in the country. And then they're going to have Uranus into Gemini, which means that they're going to be a lot of polarization around being an ally or enemy of Iran, which means that it's not going to be, but wait a second, because Sedna is in the 7th house, Iran could be a point of treason that would provoke polarities. For example, when Sedna ingressed into Gemini, this is 9th house for Israel, and Israel has been all around the world. The feeling, Israel was feeling betrayed 7th of October, and then all around the world, even feminist organizations were in big delay to acknowledge the human sacrifice in women. Is it because they were afraid to stand up to Israel and say that's a false flag, or for whichever reason, but they ended up in a really embarrassing position where they acknowledge rape, but only some. And it was actually the Inuit that were supportive at the time, not on the account of Palestine, but that was definitely how Sedna in the 9th house was for Israel. For Iran is the 7th house. Again, we had a demonstration of missiles from Iran. We had one day and then several days of missiles, of active war with Iran. A building and a hospital fell that was empty, but also casualties, and also casualties in Iran. And now we have demonstrations in Iran. So it's probably going to be polarizing, with Mercury in sign of Pisces, 27 Pisces. It's going to be around religion. So people are going to be polarized around religion. Jupiter, 29 degrees Cancer. I have colleagues that have quite similar charts. Moon in Gemini. Well, not Aries Sun. By the way, the Sun is exalted in Aries. The person has a chart similar to Iran chart. Is the ultimate jab, but it's actually not the jab. It's not that person. It's not the jab's person. I'm like looking at this chart and it looks like almost a deja vu. A different moon, different sun, different Mercury, Different Mars, different Venus. Okay, it's a different chart. But yeah, but the outer planets in Jupiter are allowed here. Rao 17 degrees. Rao in the 10th house. Mercury in the 4th. This call for leadership from the people, leadership that represents the people. Mercury, Mars, religious wars. Yes, the Saturn, Neptune are trining, still trining this Jupiter. Aries and Chiron are squaring this Jupiter. So I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest time. Saturn Neptune ingress is in the 5th house for Iran, but Mars is in the 4th house, which means some sort of military activity affecting Iran. We already see it now, but it's probably not going to get weaker when it's going to affect children, leaders, and real estate, particularly around sea, ocean. So sea, ocean here can be underground ocean, underground, um, revealing secrets. Something Pisces, it's sea, underground sea. Some underground body of water that they're going to be fighting over. That has a religious connotation. Oh, my mother told me that underneath the Harabite, how do you say Harabite? It's the place where Al-Aqsa is. That they found something there, and then my mom stops mid-sentence. She said, "It doesn't matter what, just, just." Now here's the thing: there's infrastructure, there's architecture, there are religious sacred places underground, which I don't even know how Saturn in Pisces wasn't revealing. I guess because it's like a mystery. But in Aries, we're gonna be fighting over them. So underground military basements, and in this case, some sacred water underground in the land of Iran. That may have to do with either children or even some place that were of leisure place, or the children of the king, or an entertainment place for the king or the monarch, and there's something there that you're going to be fighting for, perhaps because it's clear water. There could be minerals there, but also there's going to have religious meaning to that fight. Uranus is just a degree away from the moon, which denotes the people, and rules over the 8th house. So again, there's going to be the hidden resources here are sacred waters. Sacred waters on sacred land. It can be sacred Beta per se monasteries, sacred Venus goddesses related monasteries. Venus here is with Fomalhaut. Sacred Iranian. I don't know the ancient religions in Iran. Okay, so I know there were the Zoroastrians, but that was more like a fixed fire thingy. Fixed fire on the ground with the sacred fire and water. Tagetes. Smell Tagetes. Smell Tagetes. Now Pluto here, okay. Pluto denotes oil, but also A-bombs. It's ruled by Venus. Venus is in the land, okay, in the fourth house, but Pluto is 18 degrees. Sorry, Austin. I'm gonna delineate your Pluto. It's not intentional. Pluto is 18 degrees Libra, and this is a degree that could be a point of toxic power. Okay, and Iran is known for whether it's a rational player, irrational player when it comes to A bombs, or even nuclear energy that's supposed to be benevolent or powering cities. There is some question um, about about that. And if there is a question of oil in Iran, there's something very toxic. There's some toxic power abuse in relation to women and religion, the people of Iran and religion. And Pluto is also power, so we see how power against women used in a toxic way. Um, yes. So this is Pluto is also called. On another joke, we had another astrologer that has had an ex-wife, and he was really this pro-Palestinian. He delineated the chart of Hamas, and he said, my ex-wife was like that. She would fight for what she really believed in and so on. And I see they have like Saturn 22, Moon in Capricorn. I'm like, I really hope you weren't married to that thing. um, Saturn 22 is infrastructure or something that requires, let's say, to kill Hamas, one would have to kill the infrastructure that Hamas built, which indeed was, I think, one of the most convoluted zones on Earth. Um, so they say. And and he had it in Sag. Um, more things with this chart. A lot of fortune on the ascendant of Israel. Next to Spica. So fairness in trade and justice are things that there is a lot of fortune is when something happens to us. A lot of spirit is how we respond. So the lot of fortune here is around Spica. So there can be issues of injustice or justice around trade. And I know that there were a lot of sanctions against Iran. And this is around the ascendant of Israel. That's what I can. This is definitely ties Iran to have fated events whenever that lot of fortune is perfecting or something crosses that. And indeed, when Ketu was on that lot of fortune, we had both the war in the Israel-Palestine, but also some demonstration of what would a war with Iran look like, and that was quite loud. Okay, quite a lot of missiles, quite loud missiles, quite big missiles. Um, Big ammunition, Mars here in sign of Pisces, so big weapons. And Jupiter is not too far from midheaven of Israel, which unfortunately means that is big war. Saturn in Virgo, Saturn in Mercury sign, Saturn here ruling over second and third house, religious leadership that is also represent orthodoxy religion that is of the people, and certain things with a Jupiter in the 8th house are swiped under the rug. There can be prophets that are very highly predictive, particularly around natural resources. I think about this Mars and Mercury surrounding my ascendant, and and I'm an astrologer, so I talk about those things, and I just like body of water, sacred body. And again, I know nothing about Iran. um, by the way, the architecture of the Persian gardens is still preserved in a public, a Saturn ruling the public house, 10th house, and third house, which is also gardens, is Aquarius. So we see that the Persian gardens are preserved in this chart, and they have their particular architecture where they have a fence boundary, Saturn against them, around them, and then within there is a special unique architecture to the way everything grows and keeps the temperature. um, Neptune Sag, Neptune ascendant. That gives Iran good evasive qualities. It also means that sometimes people would think that this is Iran and it isn't. Okay, I have midheaven, midheaven Neptune, and I can say that that has been both helpless and hilarious. um, but with this one, this can absolutely give a situation where Iran did not start anything, um, but it looks like it did, or it can give a situation where Iran started something and just gets away with that. Now, the caveat is that Mercury and Mars are in the moon nakshatra of can't get away with. Remember my can't get away with? Okay, the silver dragon. Um, the can't get away with episode. So they have Mars and Mercury there, which means that if they try to get away with, and they're both ruled by Jupiter, so if they try to get away with something, it's going to have such dramatic implications that they better not. Um, and when I think about well, oh, there's an indirect connection between this fourth house, Jupiter, Moon, and Venus. There can be psychic women in Iran. Women of Iran can be very psychic. And that can bring about some prediction that something that's swiped under the rug cannot be swiped under the rug. You see, I'm not Iranian myself. If I was, I would think that this is that this is the energy. But no, women of Iran can be incredibly psychic and highly predictive. I knew an Iranian astrologer. She was this, I think, Virgo stellium, and she was very, very predictive, very, very analytical. But this one is the type of psychic awareness. Um, and also, both for the men, the soldiers, children, the people of Iran, very important. They can't get away with anything, whatever that means. So, a long time it can breed very ethical people, because they just know that there is no other option. And this is also a nakshatra where the Mercury Mars here